Let's talk about the DNS because, it's just the fashionable thing to talk about. There are a couple of things about the DNS that are really, quite amazing. Everything you do, everything I do, everything we all do starts with the DNS. And so if I was to see your DNS queries in real time, I could probably even guess what you're thinking. It's that good or bad. And so when the Snowden revelation sort of appeared, the DNS was obviously this massive point of information leak. Because amongst many other things, the DNS isn't encrypted. It's all there on the wire, open to see. And so the IETF, in response to many parts of the privacy debate, decided they'd start to secure the DNS. Now, let's sort of just sort of ambiguate two concepts. One is, do I believe what you're telling me? Which is one part of the problem. But the other one is, can anyone else see what you're telling me, whether I believe it or not? The first part's DNSSEC, and I think we've talked about that before, and it's probably for another topic. But can anyone else see me, you and me talking, is the real question here. And of course, we always only go to the one solution. Let's use encryption, because, encryption solves everything. So off we go. This is UDP, though. Now, UDP is just bare packets. And it's really hard in bare packets to set up a key, set up an encryption, exchange a session key, and do all the security dance in a UDP transaction. In fact, you can't. And so the first thing that has to actually happen, which for old crusty DNS folk is like, swearing or being terribly impolite, is to talk about using a session, TCP, to actually handle DNS queries. For a long time, we thought that was so impolite, we never talked about it, and TCP was only used in the last resort. But the world's grown. And in some ways, all of the web now runs over TCP, and it seems to go just fine. But it's not just TCP, it's TCP plus the thing we call transport level security, TLS. And there's a couple of extra handshakes, and we do a session key dance, and then all of a sudden, I know I'm talking to you and nobody else, and the session key we're using makes it really hard for anyone else to look now or even in the future what we said to each other. And so we started working on this new version of DNS called DNS over TLS, or DOT. Lousy acronym, actually. And the way DOT works was, instead of just sending you, my friendly family recursive resolver, a query, what's google.com, I actually open up a full-blown, almost the equivalent of an HTTPS session. I open up TLS. And now that I've got this secure wrapper, I send exactly what I was always going to send. But now when I send it to you, only you and I know that I did it. Anyone else looking? Can't tell. Successful? Well, yeah. Used? Nah. Why not? Well, no one really fiddles with the knobs, do they? Oh, to run DNS over TLS, you have to do this, you have to do that. Even on the Android handset with the latest versions of Android, where you had to press a button, and I think they called it Secure DNS, and put in the name of your DNS resolver, most folk don't. It really didn't have a big impact because no one moves away from the default. And it really didn't change anything much because, I hate this word, DOT. DOT was something that happened well down under the covers, down in the platform, part of the operating system. It was something that was added by Android or whoever was supporting it. It wasn't further up in your browser until DNS over HTTPS came along. Now, what is it? Well, oddly enough, it's DNS over TLS because HTTPS is HTTP over TLS. So the first part is the same as DOT. I bring up a TCP session, clunk, clunk, clunk. I bring up a TLS session, clunk, clunk, clunk. But instead of sending you the DNS query, I now bring up an HTML GET or a post and actually wrap it using HTML, and I send you the query in binary form. So it's sort of a bizarre package. Up the top is the standard HTML header with application/DNS, and the payload is binary goop because it's your DNS query wrapped up in HTML, in TLS, in TCP on the wire. So what? Just seems like more overhead. Why would anyone really worry about this? Because whereas DoT, TLS, was considered part of the substructure of the environment, HTTP is applications. All of a sudden, instead of asking my operating system to resolve this name, my browser can do it itself. It just sends out an HTTP GET and gets back an HTTP answer. No one else is involved, and it's secure, and no one can see me doing it. And my browser is now kind of traveling under the surface. So ears start to prick up. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? I'm like, making it difficult for other folk to sort of overlook what you're doing is one thing. But really? So far under the surface you can't even distinguish it from other traffic? Oh, what are you trying to do here? Gets a little bit odder. Who am I going to ask? Well, I can't just ask any old resolver because I'm speaking TCP, TLS, HTML, so I actually need to find someone at the other end that can receive, my DNS query. Now, nobody configures the DNS because when you get your IP address from your local ISP using the DHCP protocol, oddly enough, gratuitously, it also hands you the IP addresses of your DNS servers. So normally your ISP has your DNS. Obviously you trust them, obviously they're nice people, well, most of the time, so obviously this relationship works. But your browser doesn't know anything about that. It comes from Mozilla or Google's Chrome, or Google's Chrome really, I suppose, most of the time. It can choose its own resolver. It can go somewhere else. And because it's HTTPS, no one can see it happening. So it might choose to send all of your queries to, I don't know, Cloudflare. Now, as soon as they do that, some interesting things kind of happen that get a lot of people a little bit worried. Not only can no one can see you doing it, but oddly enough, the DNS, as we know it right now, is the point where a huge amount of content control is exercised. Every country has lists of places that they don't want folk going to for all kinds of reasons, not my business. But the way they implement that is they don't resolve the names in the recursive resolvers run by local internet service providers. My country, my rules, everything is fine. But as soon as I tunnel through the internet and reach a server in somewhere else, whose rules? Where's the control? And you can't even see me doing it. So all of a sudden, the things we used to think about, how control is exercised, how do we make sure folk can't get to sites we consider naughty and so on, is sort of negated. And the other part of this gets weirder. Because you think the DNS is, I ask, you answer. But HTML is a lot more than that. Here's some web. You need a style sheet. Before you even ask, I'm right on it. I'm just going to push that at you. Oh, you need some images. I'm sorry, I'm going to push that at you. Oh, you're going to actually ask some DNS. I'm going to push that at you. What did you say? I'm just going to push you some DNS answers before you even thought about them. But you're going to go there, I know. Now, did I just push you the right answer? I'm Geoff's naughty webpage, and I've just pushed you the answer for some big site, and it's the wrong answer. But how do you know that I'm lying? How do you know it's the wrong answer? One DNS answer is as good as another. So when you take DNS over HTTPS and start bringing the awesome power of HTTPS into the throw, I'm actually creating something very, very different. I can actually start creating names that only you get and no one else. Wonderful as that might be, it would put any security person into paroxysms and nightmares, because once you start doing that sort of individual tailored subversion, this gets really hard. Now, not only is it I can give you answers that you didn't expect, because it's HTTPS, I know you and you know me. The resolver knows who they're talking to. You can get your favourite answer nobody else gets. I can actually create, for good or bad, tailored answers that are invisible to anyone or anything else. Now, this is a little bit scary because most of us thought that the DNS, the namespace, was the last thing we had left that glued the internet together. Originally, and I'm going back into the 80s, the internet was kind of three things: same namespace, common address space, common protocol. Well, we blew up the address space, kind of, oops, NATs and everything else. There's no single unifying address space, and you can't even argue that the internet is a common address space when it's patently not. Same protocol, well, with MPLS and this and that, and sort of, what's the packet? Well, it's not clear. So what's left? What makes the internet the internet? If I talk about foo.com, and I want you to know about foo.com, I just tell you foo.com. That's the name. But if the foo.com I talk about and the foo.com you talk about are different, we're not communicating anymore. We've broken it. And so when you take the DNS off common infrastructure, and for the sake of a few nanoseconds of speed, which is where the browser folk are going, I create customizable and customized namespaces that are finely chopped and fragmented. Is that the internet? And if it isn't the internet, what have we done to ourselves? So when you hear, and we've heard a lot in the last 12 months, a lot of angst over DNS over HTTPS or DoH, is it really a DoH moment that we've just broken it? That somehow this last piece of cohesion, which was a single namespace that no matter who you were or even when you were, everyone asks the same question and gets the same answer because that's what the namespace is. This common referential language of the internet that actually defines the internet as one network. If you blow that up, what's left? So, yeah, it's a really good topic. It's getting a lot of attention, and perhaps the attention is merited.